Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charnley. This is another country church, but this one today we are in Cumbria. This is the Church of All Saints, Lupton. It's built in 1854 as a chapel of ease within the large parish of Hutton Roof. Hutton Roof Church isn't normally open, or may in fact have been closed permanently. It certainly wasn't open when I popped by, but this is All Saints Lupton. It's normally open. It's a tiny little building in a neo-Norman style, and it's built as a chapel of ease, later becomes a little parish church. It's now, as with most Anglican churches, particularly country ones, it's one of a group served by one or two clergy. So we'll have a look around at this tiny little building and point out some of the salient features, particularly those to do with it being a chapel of ease. As usual, then, we start at the west end. Now, what is a chapel of ease? Well, as the name suggests, it's a chapel, that is to say, it's not a parish church, but it's within an existing parish, that is built to make it easier for the people living in the area around the chapel to go to church. A lot of these big rural parishes, well, they're very big, and in the winter you have, particularly in the past, when the climate was colder, things like, they talk about the Little Ice Age, for example. In 1854, the winters were a lot colder, you'd have a lot more snow, and it'd be very difficult to get to church in the snow, and of course in the rain. Didn't have roads as we have. People would have to walk everywhere. Certainly your common people would walk everywhere, and so the result is that it can be quite difficult to get to church, and so they'd ask for a chapel to be built, or a local big house owner would say, I want a place nearer to my home and I'll pay for it. So that's what a chapel of ease is. And the chapel does nothing to do with size. Some chapels are enormous and some parish churches are tiny. It's to do with whether it was built to serve a parish or just part of a parish. And here is the font, very simple, very plain, as befits, of course, a building like this, which is very simple and very plain. The seats, again, these are your bog standard basic Victorian benches. Not a lot of memorials. The pulpit's rather interesting. You can see you've got this this tall central section, so lower sides and tall middle. Desk opposite, and then in the chancel we've got this painting. There's a memorial pattern. You can see some of these patterns. You'll recognise some of them, perhaps. You'll see the fleur-de-lis. You've got the Star of David. You've got the Jesus monogram, first three letters, and so they're all meaningful symbols. I won't explain what all of them are. The central cross, you've got the lamb and flag on the cross on the communion table, and then there's David with his harp. So we'll turn around and you can see west end. There is of course no tower. It's a very simple structure. There's the other side of the pulpit. Very, very simple building, because you're trying to get as much building for your money, really, with a structure like this. It's not intended to be something that is expensive, but something that is useful for the local people. And you can see at the back we've got the commandments, which are supposed to be displayed in all Anglican churches. They're not, for various reasons, which I won't go into here. So that's the inside here at Lupton. That's that rather nice door, look at that. And so here we are outside Lupton. Again, you can see behind me, it's a very simple neo-Norman building. It's these little windows, and of course neo-Norman, as well as being simple, the relatively small windows are quite helpful if what you want is not to lose too much heat in the winter, because obviously on a winter's day here, snow is thick on the ground, get pretty chilly, and you want a building that's quite well insulated, as well as a building that, like this, is very useful given its location and as its context as a chapel of ease. So we'll have a look around the outside and make the usual closing remarks, hopefully. So here we are. The porch looks big just because the church is tiny, but it's there, of course, a couple of reasons. One of which is it's a means you've got two sets of doors, so you get less of a draft coming. Also, it's a place to put umbrellas and overcoats and hats. It's a small graveyard. Obviously, no burials before 1850s, because no church before the 1850s. That's the west end. You can see the gable. There's been just a single bell by the looks of things. Just a bell to call the people across the fields. I can see that the setting is just glorious. These up in the hills here, and that's the old school that closed many years ago, I think in the 1960s. And essentially the reason why a lot of these village schools close is to do with demographic change. There are fewer children being born in the village, and people's lives are not quite so wrapped up in local agriculture. And this is very much an agricultural area. You can see here there's the vestry, and just trying to get to the top here. A good look at the... There we are. Look at that in all of its splendour. So that is the north side. I've got to be a little bit careful because inevitably there are things like rabbit holes in these old churchyards. I think a great chunk has been used. And another neo-Norman feature here is the apse. Normans like their apses. Most English churches that had apses have lost them, and that's because there's a change in liturgy in the 13th century that makes apses, well, it means they've got to extend the chancel, and it's much easier to extend it and then do a square end rather than to have this sort of curved bit here. So we are outside here at Lupton. I'm trying to simultaneously control where the camera's pointing and look where I'm going, because if I don't do the latter, I risk falling over and injuring myself, which would really be a bad idea. So there we have it, All Saints, Lupton. It's an entirely Victorian building. There wasn't a building here on the site before, so very, very handsome, neo-Norman. And so there you have it, All Saints Lupton, up here in the fells in Cumbria. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.